Turning to politics, Attorney General Merrick Garland is appointing a special counsel now to oversee the two ongoing federal investigations into Donald Trump concerning 2020 election interference and the Mar-a-Lago documents case, along with possible obstruction in that investigation. Garland has named veteran prosecutor Jack Smith to the position. The Justice Department says Smith has resigned from his position at The Hague, where he investigated war crimes committed during the Kosovo War. He will return to the United States immediately to begin his new assignment. Naming a special counsel gives Garland some distance from the investigation should his boss, President Biden, face off against Trump in the next presidential election.
Based on recent developments, including the former president's announcement that he is a candidate for president in the next election, and the sitting president's stated intention to be a candidate as well, I have concluded that it is in the public interest to appoint a special counsel. Such an appointment underscores the department's commitment to both independence and accountability in particularly sensitive matters. Throughout his career, Jack Smith has built a reputation as an impartial and determined prosecutor who leads teams with energy and focus to follow the facts wherever they lead. As special counsel, he will exercise independent prosecutorial judgment to decide whether charges should be brought.
Again, Attorney General Garland appointed by President Biden, wanting to give himself some distance from this investigation now that Trump has gotten into the race. The former president spent the weekend, as you can imagine, railing against Attorney General Garland's announcement. In a series of statements, interviews, and at a Mar-a-Lago event, the 2024 presidential candidate bemoaned what he called the witch hunts that he has dealt with over the years.
This horrendous abuse of power is the latest in a long series of witch hunts. It started a long time ago. They want to do bad things to the greatest movement in the history of our country, but in particular, bad things to me. But I've gotten used to it. It's lucky. It's lucky. A lot of people wouldn't get used to it so easily. This is a rigged deal, just as the 2020 election was rigged, and we can't let them get away with it. Over the years, I've given millions and millions of pages of documents, tax returns, and everything else, and they have found nothing, which means I've proven to be one of the most honest and innocent people ever in our country.
Again, the two investigations the special prosecutor will be looking into, despite what the president said there, are his leading of an attempted coup against the government around 2020 election and the taking of classified documents from the White House to Mar-a-Lago. Let's bring in former U.S. Attorney Joyce Vance. She's an MSNBC legal analyst and the founder of the conservative website, The Bulwark, Charlie Sykes. Good morning to you both. Joyce, let me start with you and what we know about Jack Smith, a prosecutor at the federal level, but also now a war crimes prosecutor at The Hague. What do you make of the move here and the choice of Mr. Smith?
Well, Merrick Garland clearly wasn't trying to appeal to the former president because there's nothing that could convince him that any investigation into his conduct has integrity. What Garland is trying to do here is simply doing the right thing in the right way, and it's something of a signal that he believes that there may well be sufficient evidence to indict Trump. Because if that wasn't going to be the case, there would have been no reason for Garland himself to decline on an investigation. So not to read the tea leaves too far, but it does seem to signal that DOJ believes that there's serious business ahead. Smith is well qualified. He has experience both in Main Justice, but out in the field at U.S. attorneys' offices. And there's nothing like trying a lot of cases to help you understand when you have enough evidence to proceed in a very serious case. There's just no substitute for that experience. So he brings that along with managerial ability. He was actually briefly an acting United States attorney in Nashville during the Trump administration. And also he brings his experience in Kosovo, where he joined that team. It's interesting, Willie. They had actually been in progress for over a year with the investigation. No charges had been brought. He joined as, they call it, the specialist counsel in that situation, and charges were brought, over 100 of them. So he seems well positioned to hit the ground running here.
So, Joyce, let's stay with you and talk a little timeline. There had been a sense of real momentum in these investigations over the summer into early fall before DOJ pushes pause, at least publicly, because of that unwritten rule about not talking publicly commenting about an investigation 60 days near an election. That has come and gone. But bringing in a new person like this, is there a sense here, as qualified as he is, but this is going to slow things down? Is this going to extend the process of the investigation until we get a resolution one way or another about possible criminal charges?
So Garland says no, and he offers some compelling reasons to believe him. I'll say I think it's appropriate for us to all be watchful. But the argument runs something like this. Smith has a track record of jumping into existing investigations and hitting the ground running. The statement that Smith himself issued was a vow that the investigation would not shift into neutral while he got up to speed. Garland has promised that he will get all of the resources that he needs. And this is a very different situation from the Mueller investigation. Mueller became special counsel 8 days after Jim Comey, the FBI director, was fired by Donald Trump. There was no pre-existing investigation for him to pick up and run with. He had to build everything from ground zero. He nonetheless moved remarkably quickly. I remember how surprised we all were when those first indictments began to come down. Smith has a very different scenario. He's got prosecutors and agents who are working on these matters, because it's both of the investigations, January 6th as well as Mar-a-Lago, and those folks will be able to shift over. He can continue working with them, with the professionals in the National Security Division. He should be able to move with some speed, even in this December period where DOJ is normally a little bit quieter. And that's what I'll be looking for, to see if they run through the tape at the end of the year.
And, you know, Mike, the criticism we've heard from Donald Trump in the last couple of days and from other Republicans over the weekend is about the timing, which is that Donald Trump announces he's running for president, and a couple of days later, the Attorney General announces a special counsel, where it's actually just the opposite. The Attorney General has said, because Donald Trump announced he's running for president, I need to remove myself from this because I was appointed by President Biden, who might be his opponent, and hand this over to someone who will be independent and who is not tied to the administration in that way.
Yeah, well, Willie, the former president has ever been known for being reflective about events that surround him, which leads me to ask you, Charlie Sykes, the clip that we just played of the former president speaking, it struck me and I think others that he does not wear well the costume of a victim.
Nobody likes to put it on, doesn't he? This, of course, is one of the great paradoxes. You know, I alone can fix this. I am the great man. I will return America to greatness, but I am this besieged victim all the time. No, I mean, my first reaction was a little bit of disappointment that it looked like the Attorney General was punting. I think that Joyce's analysis, though, is reassuring, and I think Jonathan asked the really correct question. What is the speed of this? Is it going to be slowed down? I think it's naive to think that by appointing a special counsel, he is going to reduce any of the criticism that you're going to get from MAGA world and from Republicans. But as you mentioned, it was interesting watching that clip of Donald Trump once again wallowing in his victimhood and looking past. I think it's going to be interesting over the next couple of months to see how other Republicans react to all this, particularly now that Donald Trump is alone as an announced candidate with the spotlight on him so intensely.